Well, welcome to the 700 Club Canada. I have the privilege today of having one of my friends on the program today, Ellen Graf-Martin. She is the founder and president of Graf-Martin Communications. You love marketing, you love, publicity. Tell me why. Why do you love to do that?
I love those things because they allow me to carry out what God has asked me to do, which is to connect with Christians from coast to coast and to equip them, equip the church. And so that's why I love marketing and PR.
You love telling other people's stories or helping people tell their stories, right?
I do.
Yeah, and you do a beautiful job of it, Ellen. I appreciate the help you've given me, and I've watched how you've supported ministries and people across our country. It's a real gift. And you love coffee.
I do. I love a really good dark roast.
And I love too how you bless other people with you love to give gifts.
Gifts and
Gift
words
giving
of
is your love
affirmation are my
language?
two top love languages.
Oh, that's so great. But there's things I don't know about my friend Ellen, and I want to find out. You have some missionary background. Tell me about your missionary background.
Yeah, so right after university, I actually joined Operation Mobilization, and I ended up in Latin America on the Logos 2, the ship Logos 2, for a year. It was totally not my plan, but it was God's plan, and it was incredible. And we call it the greenhouse of the Lord is really where I was, and I grew so much in that year. Came back, I was born and raised in Nanaimo, BC, came back there, and then actually rejoined OM and spent 4 years working in their publishing warehouse in Georgia.
Okay, and there was the link in the beginning of your publishing and marketing. Did you ever get seasick?
I never did.
Really?
I got sick one time from some bad tacos.
But not bad boat rides.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, that sounds like such an exciting experience, but you were in working with OM and then you had to come back to Canada. Why was that?
Yeah, my visa class that I was on was actually used by some of the 9/11 terrorists, so I had to leave the U.S.
Wow.
And
you were suspect.
I was suspect. If no, you can hide a lot of stuff under
it. Exactly.
But I was moving back to Nanaimo. I was excited. I hadn't, lived there in a long time, and I was excited. And I got offered a job in Waterloo, Ontario.
Wow.
And
it's a long way from BC.
Yeah. And I said no because I wanted to live near my family. I'm a West Coast girl, and that's where I wanted to be. And then I got the job description, and I knew I needed to move here. So I moved all my things 3,000 miles from Georgia to Nanaimo, and then another 3,000 miles from, because I didn't know the kilometers, from Nanaimo to Waterloo just a month and a half later. And moved
that
here.
was where you met your husband?
It is where I met my husband. I was leading a small group Bible study.
I tell you, we've set up many people in our small group. So
it's a good place to meet people.
It is.
I highly recommend small groups and Bible studies.
Me too.
Not necessarily to meet your spouse, but you're going to meet some good people there build good friendship.
Right. Where was he from? What's his background?
His background, he's actually Waterloo region Mennonite. So we had very divergent backgrounds. I came from Vancouver Island, and if you know anything about Vancouver Island, it's not
as Mennonite. Yeah, exactly.
More relaxed.
Yeah.
And I would say I grew up around aging hippies, and he didn't.
Right.
So.
And your journey together is a story of many things, but particularly adoption. Tell us about your adoption journey.
Yeah, and my adoption journey actually started when I was 19 years old. So I had the great fortune of being with the mission team that went to Haiti when I was 19. And we were living and working at an orphanage, and a child handed me a note written in English. So, I mean, Creole is their language, but it was written in English, and it said, "Would you please adopt me?"
Wow.
And my heart broke because I was 19, and even though it looked like I had everything, I was just 19. I knew that I couldn't do this, but I knew that one day I would.
Wow.
And so I came home, and it's so funny because I know, talking to different family members, they're like, yeah, we knew you're going to adopt then.
Not many people make the choice of adoption. Adoption seems to be like, well, if we can't have kids, then we'll adopt. But for you, you knew that was your choice.
It was our first choice.
Wow.
And it wasn't our plan B, it was our first choice.
Right.
And
That's
so
beautiful.
When we got married, we knew that we would adopt one day, but we didn't know that was the only way we would start a family.
Sure.
So in the first few years of our marriage, we were starting this company, which is a crazy story, but for the first 3 or 4 years of our marriage, we were doing that, and we thought, we gotta wait till that was our baby.
Yeah.
And then when we decided to start a family, we weren't getting pregnant right away, and we thought, well, we'll start the adoption journey.
Right.
And we had just started that and had taken the training And it was just before Easter, and they found, the doctor in a routine test found tumors in my abdomen. And at that point, we didn't know whether I had ovarian cancer or what it was. And
That's a
so,
scare.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
scare. So we had a big surgery. We kind of like put everything on hold, but God didn't.
Yes.
And so that September, we continued our adoption journey.
Wow.
And the amazing thing is that we got to a point where I had to decide between a very risky surgery that would allow me to be able to carry a child, or not having that surgery.
Wow, that's a big decision.
It was a huge
And there could be
decision.
someone watching right now that's there.
It could be.
What
and-
would you say to them? They're in that, traumatic decision.
Yeah, my husband looked at the doctor and said, if she was your wife, would you do the surgery? And he shook his head and he said, adoption is an incredible option. And what we didn't know is that a month later, he would be delivering our child.
Oh my goodness.
So that was the same doctor who delivered
Wow.
our child. And we didn't meet her till the following, till 6 months after that,
Okay.
is when she came home to us and we got to
Right.
become her parents. We had no idea. But this is the story that God was writing in the middle of that. So,
And the bond that we have with our children, whether they're flesh and blood or adopted children, is so similar, isn't it? I know
is.
you even went through a scary time with your now adopted daughter getting very sick.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened there.
yeah, our daughter, when she was 16 months old, got the flu. And what we thought was just the flu turned into pneumonia. And it turned very quickly, and we almost lost her.
Wow.
We spent time in 2 days over at 3 hospitals, and actually 4 hospitals, and landed up at McMaster Children's
Right.
ICU for 8 days. And
I've been there with a child of my own in Sick Kids Hospital, and I know there's someone watching right now, and they need, what do you do when your kids are sick and you're in that hospital room and, you are afraid? What happened to you guys? What helped you through that?
One of the things that helped us so much is that people came around us. So I think, we often want to give people their space when they're walking through that.
Right.
But the thing that was amazing was, our friends who came and cooked a meal for us at Ronald McDonald House, and people who brought us food, because hospital food it's tough, and you don't want to leave
It's
because
okay
you want
for
to
a
be with
while,
your
but
baby.
not a long time. Yeah.
And, just those people who support us. We got blankets from a church that we didn't know were prayer blankets.
Right.
And things like that were just, the community coming around us really mattered.
And at our church, and we've tried to instill this in our small groups, how do you care for people? There's 3 P's: prayer, presence, and practical support. And if you can remember the 3 P's in helping someone, maybe there's someone even today that you're watching and they're going through a difficult time, maybe like Ellen and her family, but we encourage you to show care, just like you said, that made
absolutely.
the difference. Prayer, presence, practical support. You don't have to have all the answers, right?
Absolutely.
It's not about having all the answers.
Yeah.
Would you pray for families that are maybe going through an adoption? What advice would you give just before you pray about adoption?
I would say it's not about you. At the end of the day, a lot of people think that having a child is actually about them having a child. But I would say it's actually about you being a parent. And that's a big difference. And so I would say it's about you being a parent to a child who needs you.
Right, that's beautiful. Would you pray for those? I think there's someone listening right now that needs that encouragement.
Absolutely. God, you are faithful and you are good, and we trust you in this process. I just pray for that family that is waiting for that baby or that child today. And I pray even more for that child who is looking for parents or who needs parents. And I pray, Lord, that you would set the orphan in families and that you would equip families to love them like Jesus and raise them to know you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ellen. I know you blessed someone today. It's so good. If that's you, just know you're loved and God is with you in your adoption story, your adoption journey. Up next, broadcaster Ernie Johnson takes behind the scenes to see how he confronts life's challenges with faith.